Hi, I'm Steve Bechto from Talent Development and Learning, and I believe you're watching this because you have been tasked with putting together a presentation that you might be a little anxious about. So, my first point to share with you is that that's okay. If you've seen my face before, it's because I live in front of audiences. My whole career at Mount Sinai has been presenting and engaging audiences as best as I can. And I am nervous every single time. I'm nervous right now, and you're not even here. I'm in a room by myself recording this, but I'm nervous because you're going to be watching it. I'm putting myself out there. It's a nerve-wracking experience. I get it. Enjoy that anxiety. No, it's not you. Doesn't mean you're a bad performer on stage in any way, that your presentation isn't going to be great because you're too nervous. Use that nervous energy and turn it into passion and enthusiasm for your topic, and you'll be good to go. Now, with that in mind, what advice can I give you? I've got a career of public speaking, and I've come up with a few things that I think might be helpful that I could give to you quickly. Now, we could talk for hours about this subject, really, and go into lots of detail. But I really try to think about the few things that might be in your head to think about as you plan and prepare and get ready for the big day. Now, the first thing to think about is the audience. This is not about you. You can't go into the do's. What do I need to do for my presentation? Well, I need to create my slide deck and figure out what content I need. And then I should pick a story that hits that content. We've skipped a step. Slow down. Who are you talking to? Who is your audience? We can't go right into the great parts of a presentation, or we've missed everything. We have to make a tailored presentation for who I'm speaking to. They're the person that's most important, not you and what you want to say. So, what are a few things that I think about before I plan anything about my presentation for my audience? Now, keep in mind this phrase that's helped me. The answer is in your audience. So, every question I have, what content do I use? What slides do I put up? What story do I share? The answer exists already when I think of who is this audience. Now, our audience has thousands of variables. Everything from what time of day am I speaking to them? First thing in the morning and I've got their captive attention, or right after lunch and they're kind of distracted. Those things matter. But one of the things that universally I think have the biggest impact on how I'm going to change my approach in presenting to this audience. And the first one is their interest in the subject. Does this audience have any interest in the subject? Are they coming in really eager? I cannot wait to hear this presentation. I paid $300 to be in this room right now to hear this expert talk. Okay, they're with me from the get-go. I can dive right into it. Or is this person sent to this presentation by a manager, or has to sit through a dozen of these and it's like, okay, here comes the next one. How many more to go until we're done? I really don't have an interest in this subject, but I'm here, so I'll stick with it. What is their interest level? Well, that will change where I start, how I engage them. Is it easy to engage? Is it hard to engage? Thinking about their interest in the subject will dictate where I begin, what content to put in there to build that engagement. The second question I ask is, what do they know about it already? If I'm talking about presentation skills to a room full of trainers, well, you're experts in it. Okay, so I'm going to choose different content than I would for a bunch of people who have never presented. So I'm going to create my content to fit your needs as best I can, even though there's a diverse range of skill from whoever's watching this, than I would for an audience of fellow trainers, where I might have to find something very specific that might be a new idea for them that I'm going to hone in on instead of general presentation tips. So the knowledge of your audience about your subject and topic is very important to think about before you choose what content goes into your presentation. And the third thing I want you to think about your audience that'll help you choose what to talk to is your credibility with that audience. What is your relationship to that audience? Do they know you? Do you have tons of credibility with them? They like you, they trust you, they know you've got a lot of information on this. They can't wait to hear your insights into it. You've got tons of credibility. Or do they realize that you've just started looking into this subject last week and are presenting on it, and you're in the same boat as them? What could you possibly know about this subject that I don't know already? I have no credibility or very little credibility. You've got to take that into consideration. You can't just jump up and start saying, here are the facts. Here's what you need to do. Here are the important behaviors. Who are you to tell me? I know you just started looking at this. I don't know what credibility you have on this subject. That will dictate how you create your content. And you can build instant credibility even when you feel like you have none. If you don't feel like you have much credibility with an audience or with the subject, start with your own growth in that. What is your interest in this topic? Where did that interest come from? What have you explored and learned about this that you can't wait to share with someone else, even if it's not much more knowledge on the subject than my audience has? My interest has piqued my thought and curiosity, and here's what I've explored, and I'd love to share it with you and talk to you about it. And now this more open conversation on my presentation brings you in, is honest about my expertise in it, and I'm going to have you a little more engaged and trusting my credibility because I'm not trying to be the expert on it. I'm just leading a conversation on it. Boom, instant credibility. So really think about your audience. Every answer to your questions of what do I put on the slide? What story do I share? What data do I have to give? Go to your audience, think of who they are, think of what you need to get across to them, think about what they might know and understand already, and now answer that question of what do you put in to that presentation? Okay, answer is in your audience. Okay, next part. Now you're up in front of your audience. You're trying to think of how do I present this information that I've got my content, I've laid it out, it's perfect for this audience. How do I present it to them? Now, first off, you don't have to be like me, okay? I'm not trying to tell anyone to present like I present. I know I've got a lot of energy here, okay? I get it. No one should be presenting like me. This is my thing. You be you, okay? Present as your own self. Be authentically and genuinely you. We want to hear from real people talking about what their topic is with passion. Okay, and that's the most important thing. You can speak in any cadence and inflection. In fact, one of my favorite presenters I've ever seen is Malcolm Gladwell. If you know that author, look him up, Malcolm Gladwell. Great books. He speaks like this. And I saw a 60-minute interview with him at a conference. And I was on the edge of my seat for every word because his stories were so engaging and interesting, even though he was the slowest, softest speaking person I'd ever heard. Okay? And I have no attention span. I was locked in because what he said was so interesting. And the number one way I think you become more engaging to your audience is being passionate about what you have to speak about. Okay? If you love your subject, if you're interested in your subject, you become instantly more engaging. The worst thing you can do is get up in front of your audience and start to kind of badmouth your own topic. I've seen this so many times. Look, I know this isn't the most exciting topic in the world, but bear with me. I got a few slides to go through. Instantly checked out. Okay? I actually picture my audience sitting out there with headphones on. Okay? Don't do the whole, pretend your audience is naked kind of thing to make you feel more comfortable. That doesn't make you feel comfortable. Picture them with headphones on. Okay? My job is to have them choose to take their headphones off. They don't want to listen to you. They're not listening to you. You go up on stage and they're curious about, is this something I want to listen to or not? And they're starting very skeptical. Every audience, picture them that way. And you've got to say something that makes them take it off and say, oh, I've got something to listen to here. And the fastest way to get there is to be really excited about what you're talking about. Not over the top excited like I am, but just interested and enthusiastic and passionate about it. Passion is everything. When I hear someone who loves their subject and their topic and what they're speaking to, I'm instantly more engaged. Okay, so along with passion, what else to think about? Well, there's two more things I think you should really put in when you flesh out your content. Okay, here's my subjects, here's my topics. Now, what do I say about them? Well, the two things you need to do are be specific and to justify everything. So let's start by being specific. You've got to make it real for people. You can't be vague. You can't just be up there saying, here are my bullet points. Here's what's important. Take this with you and just assume your audience is going to say, oh, okay, good. I'll do those few bullet points. Thank you. You've got to make each one of those bullet points real. How do you make things real for people? Do you bring in data? Do you bring in a quote? Do you bring in what I think is the best route, a story that makes it real? Here's an important point one, here's important point two, and let me give you an example of when I saw this play out in real life. for me, for a colleague, for a patient, whatever it might be. Let me make it real for you with a story, with an analogy, with an example, with some data. I'm going to take what I'm saying is important and make it real. Okay, that's so critical. Think about what you're saying and how your audience might be going, okay, what does that mean? What does that look like? Okay, I need some realness from it. And the next thing you need to do is justify. Your audience isn't going to believe you. I'm sorry. Just because you're up there talking doesn't mean they're listening. And that doesn't mean they're just accepting everything you say, even when you have credibility. They're not just accepting everything you say verbatim and saying, oh, perfect. Thanks, Steve. Got it. I will do exactly that for the rest of my life. No, I've got to justify every single thing I say. I can't look at patient experience data and say, okay, you see why this is important. You see these scores. This is so critical. Why? Why is that question critical? I don't believe it is. You need to tell me why. Here's a change in scores. Was that good? Is that bad? I don't know what that means. Make sense of it for me. Make it real and justify why that's important. I have to think that my audience is questioning every single thing I say. I can't just say, this is fact and be done. Someone in that audience is going to be saying and doubting it, saying, why? Why is that important? I don't think that's true. They're out there thinking that in their heads. They're not going to say it. They're not going to ask every question, but I've got to assume they're in their heads going, if I haven't justified it, they're doubting it. I've got to make it real and I've got to answer why. So throughout your presentation, make sure you're putting that in. You can't put up data and then just leave it. You got to say what that data means, make it real, and answer why that's important. You can't just share a story. Here's a funny story about a patient experience. Okay, why did you share that story? What behavior am I supposed to take from that? What's the message? What's the core value that I'm supposed to take and apply? These are all important things to consider. So again, I could talk about this forever. I know you're still anxious. You're putting together your presentation, but what I hope is helpful is to come to terms with being anxious. Okay. Think about your audience. It's all about them. Who are they? What's my credibility with them? What do they know already? What's their interest in this? Okay. That's going to help me choose what to talk about. And now, how do I flesh out what I talk about? How do I make this real? Just keep asking yourself, how do I make this real? This is an important point. How do I make it real? What's the story I share? And then how do I justify why that's important? I can't just say this is important to do it. I gotta answer why. And then throughout, passion. Be passionate. Be interested. Just love being in that moment, getting to talk about the thing that in this moment, you wouldn't want to talk about anything else. It's just this topic. All right. And you're going to do great. I hope I get a chance to see you speak someday. Let me know. Call me up, send me an email. I'll come and check it out if I can. But I wish you the best of luck. Hope this was helpful. And I think you're going to do a great job.